and I just went do 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 do. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Just Another Struggling Writer, the beleaguered author's one-stop shop for commiseration and hopefully inspiration. My name is Carey and I am just another struggling writer. Today I have quite a sizable book haul for you guys. I actually got a pretty big bonus at my day job recently, and it wasn't just like a company-wide bonus or an earnings bonus. This was specifically for people in my position, in my role, and it was based on performance, and I was one of the top performers. So I got one of the biggest bonuses they offered for this initiative. And because of that, I was really, really proud of myself and feeling like because it was based on my performance and my hard work, I didn't want to just put this money in my bank account and just save it up. I wanted to actually spend it on me as a reward for all this stress and everything that I went through trying to earn this bonus. So what other way does someone like me spend a big chunk of money but at the bookstore? And so I made my first stop of the day at Half Price Books. And if you're familiar with Half Price Books, it is a resale shop, a secondhand store. They do carry some new releases, but by and large, it is a secondhand store for books. And that is my favorite place to shop. The only problem with it is because it's secondhand, it's really hit or miss with its selection. And my local store, their sci-fi fantasy section is not very robust. So usually when I stop there, I'm only finding one or two books that I want to pick up. This time around, I did find two that I decided to bring home. The first book I picked up was A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik, and this is the first book of the Sholomance series, which I have never read. I do understand that this is possibly YA, or at least a younger adult. And while I traditionally don't like YA, I thought the premise of this book was really, really fascinating and really interesting to me, especially. And I've heard some good things about it. And the cover is just so beautiful. And, you know, if nothing else, it's a pretty quick read. And I think this might be a potentially good pickup. This follows a young woman who, as I understand, goes to a magic school wherein monsters are actually roaming the halls pretty much trying to kill the students. However, this is actually the safer option rather than going out into the wider world where it is actually more dangerous for people with magic and no training. So the goal here is to learn enough about her magic to be able to survive in the wider world while also surviving the innate dangers of the school itself. I've never actually read any Naomi Novik. I have sitting over on my desk the first of the Temeraire series, and I have never really been super intrigued by that one either, but I think this could be a good introduction to her work. The second book I picked up at half price is Ancillary Justice by Leckie, and I don't know literally anything about it other than I've heard good things, just positive feedback, and that it is sci-fi. So when I saw it available, I thought, of course, I should just go ahead and pick it up. Like I said, at half price, the selection isn't that good. So if there's anything that I'm even remotely interested in, I grab it off the shelf. I am currently in the middle of my first sci-fi read in a long time, and I'm really enjoying it. So this may be the start of my sci-fi era. So this could be another excellent pickup. So that was all that I could find at Half Price Books that day that I wanted to add to my collection. And I left there thinking I wasn't satisfied and I didn't want to wait and sit on this bonus. I wanted to go out and get some more shopping done. And more specifically, I wanted to go out and buy books that I've been looking for specifically, but haven't been able to find at my local half price. So I decided to go ahead and go down to the local Barnes & Noble and do a little bit of shopping there. And let me tell you, it has been a long time since I paid full price for a book. And I forgot how much a chunk of change they can cost you. And I just went in there knowing that I had this huge bonus. And I just went do, 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 do. And I just gathered up as many books as I could hold in my arms and went to the checkout counter. I had my daughter with me. We were kind of in a little bit of a hurry because we had to go meet my sister. So I wasn't really even thinking about it. I was just like, I was still kind of in half price mode where it was like, I know that book. I've heard things about it. I want it on my shelves and I grabbed it. I think if I went like at a different time where there wasn't so much of a time crunch, I would have been a little bit more discerning. I'm still kicking myself for not looking for any T. Kingfisher or anything like the other specific books that I wanted, but I still think I got a pretty good haul. So I picked up a couple of series specifically, and the first one is, again, one I've been looking for every time I go to Half Price, and they never have it. And that is the first 3 books of the Locked Tomb series, starting with Gideon the Ninth and Harrow and Nona. I love everything I hear about these books. I know that it is kind of a science fantasy. It's got magic, it's got technology, it's got lesbian necromancers, it's got murder mystery, and it's got kind of a confusing style of storytelling, very disorienting. And honestly, that all sounds fucking rad. And I have been looking and looking and looking for these books at Half Price, and I just haven't been able to find them. So when I saw them at Barnes and Noble, I was like, I'm not passing this up. I need these books in my life. And so I did not hesitate to grab all of them. And I know that there's a 4th one, Electo, I think, that is due to come out. And so rest assured, I will be completing this quartet when it's complete. Then I picked up another trilogy I've been looking for, not quite as urgently because I knew I would eventually lay hands on it in some way, shape, or form. But when I saw these at Barnes and Noble, I was like, you know what? I'm going to commit, and that is the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb, the first series in her Realm of the Elderling world. I loved this book when I read it, and I mean loved it. The edition that I had was an ebook edition, and it had illustrations in it. I don't think this one does, no. But the illustrations really got me. There was one particularly at the end that I wept over, and I am not a big crier when I read. But more than that, I also just loved the style of storytelling. I know this can be hit or miss for a lot of readers. I like the slowness. I like the character focus. I like the focus on the politics. I like the focus on one central character navigating this kind of impossible situation. And I like watching Fitz grow. The slowness to me wasn't a bother at all. I have it on my list this year to continue. Actually, probably pretty soon I'll be picking up the next one, which is Royal Assassin. But then I also, of course, had to complete it with Assassin's Quest. It's probably on my long-term goals to read every book in the Realm of the Elderling series, but this is obviously the best place to start. And especially since I've already read Assassin's Apprentice and loved it. They're so pretty. I'm kind of intimidated by how much thicker Royal Assassin is, but you know what? That's okay. I wasn't planning on rereading Assassin's Apprentice, but now that I have them in these editions, I may reread it just so I can annotate it before I get into it. It has been several years since I read it, so I am so excited to add these to my shelves. The next book I picked up was another book that I have been specifically looking for and haven't been able to find at Half Price, and that is Foundryside by Robert Jackson Bennett. And I love the magic system that I've heard is in this book. I, again, haven't read it, but have wanted to read it. I know that there are enchanted objects, or everything has a soul or something. Anyway, just magical objects, and I kind of am fascinated by that. So this is another, I think, science fantasy, but that is my jam to the utmost. So again, when I saw this at Barnes & Noble, I was just like, yoink, yes, please. Unfortunately, they didn't have the others immediately in sight. Again, I didn't have a lot of time to really browse. I was just grabbing, but may as well start with one before I read the others. Don't pay any attention to the Locked Tomb that I also haven't read. All right, and related to what I just said about probably shouldn't be picking up books that I haven't read and don't know that I'll like before completing the series, I couldn't help myself. Look how pretty. Oh my God. Oh my God. I thought that Six of Crows was mid, and I know that's an unpopular opinion, but I don't like YA that much. I'm not a huge fan of it, and I honestly didn't even like the way that Leigh Bardugo wrote the story, in terms just like the constant flashbacks. I thought it stalled the momentum of the plot, and I didn't really care for that. And I know that Ninth House does that a bit here as well, but I don't even care. They're so beautiful. I asked my daughter, because she was with me, if I should just go ahead and get them. And she was like, oh, I don't really like this one because she didn't like seeing the dead rabbit. She was like, oh, but you should definitely get this one. I was like, if I get this one and then I can't find Hellbent in this edition later, I'm gonna just be kicking myself. So I decided to get both. And I don't care if I never read these. I don't care if I read them and hate them. They are going to look so beautiful on my shelves. And I've never really even cared about that. As you can see, my shelves are kind of mismatched because I do most of my shopping at half price. And again, it's a mixed bag, but I'm going to allow myself to be a little bit vain about these guys. And the last book I picked up at Barnes & Noble is Kushiel's Start by Jacqueline Carey. And I have read about half of this book. I've started it about probably half a dozen times and then laid it down and then never got back into it. But I really enjoyed what I did read of this. I actually have a mass market paperback version, but she has seen a better days. I went ahead and picked up this one. It also feels a little less intimidating. It's a little bit less thick in this version. But like I said, I really enjoyed the story and the setting and the concept. And I know there's a second trilogy after this one. So I went ahead and picked it up. You know, who knows if I'll ever find the other editions like this, but oh well. Again, I was acting on impulse to an almost alarming degree while I was in that store, so I'm not surprised that I was just like, okay, you too, on my way out. So that is everything that I picked up at Barnes & Noble, but I decided to continue my shopping spree with some manga. I have been getting back into anime and manga lately a little bit, mostly the ones I've already seen when I was a teenager, when I was back really into anime. And to that point, I picked up the first 3 volumes of Cardcaptor Sakura Clear Card. Cardcaptor Sakura is so important to me. I love this series so much. I used to watch it like once a year. I really love it. And then last year I showed it to my daughters and they became obsessed with it. I hadn't seen, up to last year, I hadn't seen or really done any exploration of Clear Card. I was kind of afraid that it would taint my memories and my fondness for the original. But eventually I just got too curious and I watched the first season. And then I was like, I have to know more. So I went online and found as many of the released chapters as I could. And there weren't as many back when I did it. And then I heard recently that they are about to wrap up the manga. And I just love these two so much. Look how lovely she is. Look at her. I just love these characters and this story and this world and everything about them so much. They're just so special to me. I can't believe it took me this long to read the follow-up series to series that I loved from the time that I was like 14, and it didn't ruin anything. It just makes me so happy and feels so warm and special, and I just love her so much. What do you want me? Anyway, so I'm going to be eventually completing this series. I don't have quite as much funds to go ahead and complete what's currently out, which is like 12 or 13 volumes. But I thought I would do a little chunk at a time, so I got the first 3. Okay, y'all, we are in the home stretch. We just have 2 books left. They are coming from my 2 book box subscriptions. The first one is The City of Stardust by Georgia Summers. And this is about a family who is under this mysterious curse where one person of the family must go and serve this mysterious person for unknown means or ends. And when the main character's mother goes missing, she is tasked by this unknown person to find her, or she is going to be the one taken away to serve. So she goes on this quest to find her mother, and that's really all I know about it. It sounds YA, which, what are you going to do? But it's blurbed by Shelley Parker Chan, so how bad could it be? So this came from my Caffeine and Legends book box subscription, which, if you don't know, it is a fantasy-based book box subscription that comes with a drink of choice: coffee, tea, or drinking chocolate. And this appealed to me because A, it's fantasy-based, and B, I can have the choice to have drinking chocolate because I don't actually like coffee or tea. So this worked out wonderfully. It's my favorite book box so far out there. And while they don't get the pretty editions that some of the other ones do, I think that the rewards have really benefited me especially. So that's where I got this guy. And oh my gosh, beautiful. And it also came with this matching bookmark. And then lastly, my book of the month book choice was The Foxwife by Yangsze Choo. And this is a historical story with fantasy elements based in early 1900s China. And I know it has a lot of Chinese legends and myth weaved into it. So that's really all I know about this one. I'm kind of disappointed this came in February. I would have loved to have read it in December because I am in Texas and winter is basically already over here. But it is beautiful, and I'm not a really big mood reader anyway, or a big vibe reader anyway. So excited to have this one added to my shelves as well. And that is it. We have come to the end of this massive book haul. I don't get to do this very often, so I kind of went all out, and I am not at all ashamed of the choices that I made. I only wish that I had more money to give so I could fill up these shelves. It's a work in progress, but I will get there eventually. And for now, that is all I have for you guys. Which book do you think I should read first out of all of these? Let me know in the comments. If you like my channel and you want to support, please like and subscribe. It is so appreciated, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.